Our intent in setting this program up is that you become acquainted with what's called the Palestinian narrative. Almost all of us that are in touch with of the age that most of us here have been exposed to what is now called the Israeli narrative. One of the things I learned as a young man in the peace movement in the 60s is that people could agree upon most of the facts of a situation, but understand those facts very differently. It's like you looked at the same thing with different eyeglasses that filtered different things. And so two people talking to each of you would think you were talking about different things, although you were talking about the same events. And that's the situation we're experiencing with Israel-Palestine. We know what's often called the pro-Israeli or the Israeli narrative because we remember seeing Exodus. How many of you saw the movie Exodus? And that, and the fact that we have Jewish friends and Jewish neighbors, and if we discussed it at all, made it clear to us that Israel was a good place. Some of us have been to Israel and have experienced that it's in many ways a very lovely place, for us as Christians, a sacred place. But we have had very little until quite recently experience of the Palestinian people of that area. And that's simply because most of us, when we went as tourists, didn't encounter or even talk to Palestinians unless we had a cab ride or went to Bethlehem and happened to talk to a Palestinian there. So the tragedy is that Americans know the Israeli narrative very well. We don't know the Palestinian narrative. And that's a major cause of the current problem there. Because what is going on there is depends upon our understanding not only the Israeli narrative, but the Palestinian narrative. And most Americans simply don't know it. And that's heightened by the problem that now we have a large flux of Arab, mostly Muslim immigrants, although many Christians have immigrated here who are Arab and Palestinian in background. And I don't know what it is about our country, but is God's chosen people. I don't know, I'm sure you're all familiar with the mythology of America's founding. We are the new Israel, leaving Egypt to Europe, coming here to establish God's kingdom on earth, and it's our job as God's chosen people to be a light to the nations. And being a light to the nations, those nations that don't get the message, we've had ways of making sure they do get the message. And we've always had people that we felt others needed to be saved from. In the early days, we needed to save people from Catholicism. And that involved us in a number of wars. Then, of course, there was the things that we were more experienced with. We had to save people from Nazism, and then the Soviet communists. And then for a short while, it appeared we had no one to save people from. And that was a serious problem because that's part of our identity. That's why we exist. But we found a new movement to save people from, and that's Islam. And so that's become part of this whole complex that we're struggling with. We don't know Islam. If we read the papers and listen to the news, we're very aware that there are Muslim people that we probably would not like to meet. They don't sound very pleasant. They've done some very nasty things. And part of and I should say that there's more than one pro-Israeli narrative or one pro-Palestinian narrative. There are a number of narratives. And one of the Israeli narratives says that the problem with the situation there is that there is no one to make peace with. And that's because, if you look at this book that some of which is available to you, it simply said that if the Palestinians laid down their arms, there would be peace tomorrow. What arms they have, we have to say, which their weapons mostly come down to rocks, and some rockets that they shoot from the Gaza Strip. But if the Israelis laid down their arms, there would be another Holocaust. That's a narrative that many people believe. And but what we're going to try and do here is acquaint you with the Palestinian narrative. But we will have on the May 15th a speaker that has been here before from Stand With Us, who will give you a very hard dose of the pro-Israeli narrative, because we want you to make sure you understand at least the two dominant narratives well. And then at the last session we have, you'll meet people that represent some of the groups, activist groups, trying to deal with this whole issue. One of them being the Church Council's group, but there's a number of others, and we hope that some of you will see fit to become involved in some of those groups. But today we're going to begin with a video that focuses on both narratives, and then hopefully through open discussion, we will begin to better understand what these narratives are saying and how critical a role we Americans play. Because right now, if any of you have any doubts, our congressional representatives are almost entirely supporting the hard pro-Israeli narrative. And because that's so, many people would say it's very unlikely that there will be any peace agreement in Israel, because unless we Americans change our course and begin to pressure more than just rhetorically the current Israeli government, many of us have no reason to believe that they will make any adjustments other than what is going on right now. But let's look at the DVD. There's two brief sections we're going to look at, and then we're going to open this to discussion not only between me and you and our other guests, but between all of us that are here, because we all have knowledge about this and we need to share that. It's my hope that one of the major outcomes of our sessions here is that you'll feel much freer to talk to your neighbors, your co-workers, your friends, because until the American population sees the complexity of the problem and to understand that our current policy that is being carried out by our government isn't going to solve the problem won't be solved. So let's look at these two brief videos and then we'll have our discussion.